President Trump announcing that he's going to impose tariffs on Canada and France over their digital services tax on U.S. tech companies. This comes as Trump's 25% tariff on all imports remains on pause until next month after Canada agreed to boost its border security. Meanwhile, for the first time ever, all 13 of Canada's premiers met with officials at the White House last week. They described the talks as constructive, one premier mentioning, quote, some very frank moments across the table. Emily, this is just a piece of the negotiations the White House is doing really globally when it comes to tariffs.
Yeah, I think President Trump has always sort of put forward tariffs as a policy tool. In some cases, they're a tariff that you actually carry out. In other cases, they're designed to elicit a reciprocal response from another nation. I think we've seen that with, Mexico and Canada immediately coming to the table to renegotiate on trade when there was a threat of potential tariffs that could derail their economies.
Yeah.
He's used it in this way in the past. So I'm curious to see how this plays out in the long run, whether or not it sort of changes those deficits or we actually see these tariffs put in place.
Well, and Mike, I mean, the Canada-United States story is an energy story. This is about oil exports. This is about pipelines. They are a nation of great natural resources, and we do depend on them for oil imports.
Yeah, third largest proven resources in the world in terms of oil and natural gas. I don't quite know what the angst and the antagonist towards Canada is, other than
the border.
Well,
it's the border.
So yes, you have a border, but like if you look at Canada and Mexico, Mexico has been a destabilizing force to the United States. Okay, it is a narco regime, and I think a lot of things are going to shake out over the next couple of years, given the fact that we've declared the cartels terrorist organizations. Where Canada, very similar population, yes, they are profiting from our economy way more than we are from theirs, but a lot of that is this energy relationship we have from them. So I don't know if it's because Trump wants shipping routes to the north of Canada. He's upset with the fentanyl coming over the border, which relative to Mexico is a rounding error. So it's fun to make fun of Canada, and I enjoy that. I enjoy the hockey game this weekend.
They have great maple syrup. I just want to be clear. And they make really good Christmas movies. But sorry, go ahead.
But when you look at the two neighbors that we're giving a hard time, I don't think we're being hard enough on Mexico, and I don't know why Canada is getting the brunt of this.
Don't you think
that's a good question.
That this is about politics more than anything else, though, where Trudeau is so far to the left, particularly from a country that has, as you mentioned, such huge energy resources. We've heard nothing but sort of leftist climate policies out of Trudeau. I think that's part of why he's got President Trump sort of has taken aim at him a little bit, because it's a disparity between on the politics.
Yeah, and to that point, Canada's GDP per capita, when you adjust for inflation since Trudeau took over, is down over 20%. I mean, that is a death knell for a nation. He has destroyed the quality of life for the average Canadian. Housing is unaffordable. Groceries unaffordable. It has been absolutely devastating since he took over. Where in the U.S., GDP per capita gone through multiple different administrations with our own inflation problems is up about the exact same amount. So things are bad there, and maybe Trump's trying to help him out by exposing what an idiot Trudeau is. But again, I'm a bit perplexed.
Trudeau's also on his way out.
Yes.
I mean, to be clear, he has lost political favor in his nation because, again, of these. I mean, they've had that immigrant flood. Think about, when they were welcoming immigrants from Afghanistan, and so the Canadians themselves, the Canadian people, I believe, are saying we need to move more to the right. I think the same cultural issues that have hit the United States, Emily, have hit Canada.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing this across the Trump administration's policies. J.D. Vance just went to Europe and said, listen to your voters. Stop pretending that you're this leftist paradise when, frankly, across Europe, you're seeing rejection of those principles. I think we're seeing that in Canada as well. And Trump and others in the Trump administration have a unique ability to call that out and say, you need to listen to your voters because we listened to ours and we had a huge change in the way the politics look in America.
Well, the editorial board wrote about what you brought up with Europe, and the last week was pretty head-spinning when it comes to the relationship between the United States and Europe. And the board says the Trump shock comes to Europe. And they mentioned that, when they were asked at a conference where the Europeans would play a role in peace talks, this is Russia-Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, former general, now our envoy, said, Not going to happen. You're going to be cut out of this. And so either you want a spot at the table or you don't. They want it, and we're saying you're not going to get a spot at the table because of what we've been discussing all morning. You need to secure your own defenses. It's not our problem that you've built up your military.
Yeah, look, I think so. A lot of issues here. First, the leadership disconnect from the populace of the people, which we saw with the Biden administration in the U.S. You're seeing that all over the world. Canada, like we were just talking about, and definitely in Europe, where they marginalize political parties because they simply don't appreciate their points of view. Brexit, more people voted for Brexit than have ever voted for anything in the history of the United Kingdom. That took 7 or 8 years to play out, even though there was a clear will of the people, and that sort of pushback is over there. And we were talking about GDP spending for defense earlier. All these countries, they factor in spending on climate change because climate change is a national security threat, and the health care for their country, also another national security threat. So it is a joke. I mean, if there was an invasion of Europe and there was no America to keep them safe, they'll be speaking whatever invading country language comes through here because they have not mobilized our military. Because the United States, at the expense of our taxpayer and our national debt, has facilitated a global security and a protectorate for the entire European Union.